In tonight's news edition, heavy bombardment of rebel-held areas of eastern Aleppo in Syria kills more than 90 people and destroys at least 40 buildings, killing off any hope of reviving a ceasefire. The United Nations Security Council adopts a resolution urging countries to ratify the comprehensive nuclear test ban adopted by the UN General Assembly in 1996. And in the United States, the city of Charlotte, North Carolina returns to normal after several days of protests sparked by a police-involved shooting of a black man. Good evening and welcome to the news at 10. His Majesty the King returned home following a working visit to New York, where he led the Jordanian delegation to the annual meetings of the UN General Assembly and delivered Jordan's speech at its 71st session. The King also took part in the Leaders' Summit of Refugees, which was hosted by U.S. President Barack Obama, and delivered a speech that focused on challenges facing Jordan due to the Syrian refugee crisis. King Abdullah also held a series of meetings with heads of states and governments taking part in the assembly meetings. His Majesty also attended a session dedicated to supporting Jordan and Lebanon to deal with the refugee crisis. The session was held under the auspice of Clinton Global Initiative with the participation of global leaders and international organizations. In Syria, heavy bombardment of rebel-held areas of eastern Aleppo killed more than 90 people and destroyed at least 40 buildings. The United Nations said it was looking into alternative ways to get aid into eastern Aleppo with an in-country convoy and not only cross-border operations. Two 20-truck aid convoys with enough supplies for 185,000 people has been stuck at the Turkish-Syrian border for more than a week, while warplanes launched heavy airstrikes on the areas of the city. Here's more.
Witnesses say the airstrikes began before dawn and did not let up. The strikes were focused on eastern Aleppo.
They targeted the defence centre here in Al Ansari, and there definitely have been more than 25 raids since 5 a.m. until now.
The strikes here came hours after the Syrian army announced the start of a new military operation to take Aleppo back. A Syrian army source says the operation will likely include preparatory air and artillery attacks, followed by a ground assault. The operation all but dooms efforts to resurrect the ceasefire, which lasted a week before collapsing on Monday.
Meanwhile, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said the International Syria Support Group, including the U.S., Russia, and other major powers, will continue their work to make sure the ceasefire in Syria is observed. Lavrov talked to media after the group met in New York on the sidelines of the annual United Nations gathering. The United States and Russia failed to agree on how to revive a short-lived ceasefire in Syria during what the UN Syria mediator called a long, painful, difficult, and disappointing meeting. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry said the United States and allies who support opposition groups were prepared to reciprocate, but only if Russia showed it was serious about implementing the ceasefire agreement. The truce had collapsed after a week when an aid convoy was bombed, killing some 20 people.
We will continue our work to make sure the ceasefire is observed. There were attempts by some of our partners to get the Syrian government to take steps unilaterally, but we insist, and we are supported in it, that the steps should also be taken by the opposition. And it should be ensured that, under no circumstances, Nusra or ISIS should be allowed to use the situation to their benefit. I believe we have a mutual understanding of this, but the details still need to be worked on.
The United Nations Security Council adopted a resolution urging countries to ratify the comprehensive nuclear test ban adopted by the UN General Assembly in 1996. The ban has been signed by 183 countries and ratified by 166, but is yet to be ratified by the United States. The Council overwhelmingly voted in favor of the resolution, with only Egypt casting a vote of abstention. United States Secretary of State John Kerry, addressing the Council before the vote, said that the resolution is a renewed commitment towards nuclear non-proliferation, especially in the wake of a test by North Korea earlier this month.
North Korea's latest nuclear test is a challenge to this Council's leadership. It is a challenge to the norm that I just articulated. It is a challenge and a direct threat to international stability and peace. It is a dangerous and reckless act of provocation which we have to summon a determined and effective answer to. Today, this morning, is an affirmation of our willingness to make that clear, to give that answer, to take a step that says, we will not lose our commitment. We will remain committed to moving in the direction of ending the threat of nuclear war.
And the United States residents of Charlotte, North Carolina said the city was beginning to return to normal after several days of protest sparked by a police-involved shooting of a black man. The night before, a crowd of hundreds had gathered, chanted and marched for a third successive night in the city, demanding justice for Keith Scott, who was shot dead by a black police officer in a parking lot of an apartment complex on Tuesday. This report has the details.
Protesters remained on the streets of Charlotte, North Carolina early Friday morning, despite a police-imposed curfew. Protesters have been demonstrating since Tuesday after the fatal shooting of Keith Scott, a 43-year-old black man. One person died, 9 others were injured, and 44 arrests were made during riots on Tuesday and Thursday morning, prompting officials to declare a state of emergency.
I'm very proud of the young people of Charlotte. They stood up, they acted in a professional manner, they're not tearing things up like the media would like for them to do, and I'm hoping that they continue to do that.
A video released to Scott's family showed him walking slowly with his arms by his side when he was shot by police, the family's lawyer said. Police say Scott was carrying a gun. His family said he was holding a book, not a firearm. But after viewing the video, they say it's impossible to determine what, if anything, was in his hands. Scott's death is the latest to stir passions in the U.S. over the use of deadly force by police against black men.
Italy's Gucci staged a kaleidoscopic fairy tale in one of the first catwalks showcasing women's spring and summer 2017 collections in Milan's Fashion Week. In the Magic Lanterns collection, layered and ruffled gowns, gold decorations and outfits echoing a hippie style took center stage. Dragons, jellyfish, tigers and parrots decorated coats and dresses, and 2 zebras stood on a big orange fur coat. To the beat of melancholic violins, models strutted down a starred and striped pink carpet in a former rail station dressed up in shimmering metallic pink panel. Milan Fashion Week runs until Tuesday, September 27th. We stay in the world of fashion, but we move from Milan to Japan, which held its first fashion show for extra-large men in downtown Tokyo aimed at breaking down obesity taboos. The Tokyo Poshar Plump Collection, jointly organized by a plus-size clothing brand and a fashion magazine for larger men, featured models weighing over 100 kilograms, walking, twirling, and posing on the catwalk. Thursday's event attracted over 100 people who were invited to disclose their weight for a discount on a new range of ready-to-wear plus-size clothing items, but organizers said the event wasn't just about sales. They hoped the show would help change attitudes to plus-size people in Japan, where obesity levels are among the lowest in the world, and large people are often depicted as figures to be made fun of. Britain will travel to Canada in the first round of the 2017 Davis Cup, while the United States will host Switzerland. Britain and Canada have clashed just once in the Davis Cup in 1967, and the tie is likely to put three-time Grand Slam champion Andy Murray against Canada's world number 6 Milos Raonic in a repeat of this year's Wimbledon final. The United States faces Switzerland, who won the tournament for the first time in 2014 with a team including this year's U.S. Open star Stan Wawrinka and 17 Grand Slam champion Roger Federer. Real Madrid will visit Las Palmas tomorrow to try to keep the lead in La Liga after the draw against Villarreal on Wednesday. Zinedine Zidane said he was happy with the performance of Real's forwards, but admitted he wasn't satisfied with the first half, where they failed to reach the record of consecutive league wins. Real Madrid will visit Las Palmas before a new Champions League leg, where they will travel to Germany and face Borussia Dortmund. And finally, fair conditions continue across the kingdom for the rest of tonight, with partly cloudy skies and northwesterly winds. Moderate conditions prevail in most regions tomorrow, but it remains relatively hot in the Jordan Valley and the Dead Sea, with a high of 29 degrees Celsius in the capital. The Gulf of Aqaba should expect hot conditions tomorrow, with northerly moderate to brisk winds and choppy seas. Next are the lows and highs for tonight and tomorrow. To end the news, here's a reminder of our top stories. Heavy bombardment of rebel-held areas of eastern Aleppo in Syria kills more than 90 people and destroys at least 40 buildings, killing off any hope of reviving a ceasefire. The United Nations Security Council adopts a resolution urging countries to ratify the comprehensive nuclear test ban adopted by the UN General Assembly in 1996. And in the United States, the city of Charlotte, North Carolina returns to normal after several days of protests sparked by a police-involved shooting of a black man. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news. I'm Nancy Khair. Thank you for watching and have a good night.